Marking out the splice on the real billet shows that drawing your line isn't quite as easy as you might think. Due to the bend in that billet, it appears to be well off to one side, but that gives the straightest centre line for the bow I can get, and still gives me 15mm from the splice. It's probably only going to be about, say, a 40-pound bow, so I don't know whether I'll make it 3-inch or 3.5-inch splice. This skinny one, you can see there's not a vast amount of hardwood, and you can see, you know, the curvature on the top there will make it very difficult to draw my lines accurately, but I'll do the best I can. Right, I couldn't decide between 3 inches and 4 inches. Yeah, well, now I'll tell you it's 3.5 inches, of course. Right, but you can see I've laid them out exactly the same, and it's easy to go wrong and think, oh, I've got to make one the mirror image of the other, or this, that and the other, but as we showed with the paper, I'll make them exactly the same, and then after they're cut we rotate and they'll fit together squump like that. So right, now to saw them, but you can see the difficulty of trying to mark out on that curved surface, but having a nice flat base should allow it to run through the bandsaw. I'll check that the bandsaw blade's vertical before I start, just offer up a set square to the blade. I don't suppose they'll fit very well, but this is a pretty, you know, nasty pair of billets, but at least you'll be able to see what happens. I'll do the easy one first. Right, it's not the best blade for the job. That's a sort of general purpose metalworking blade, and it's not that sharp. It's smoking a little bit, but I'm too lazy to change it for a better blade really. Cutting along the grain is harder work than cutting across it. I think I'll carry on with this because I'm not actually that fussed. Yeah, this is just a demo job. If it had been an important bit of work, I'd stop and change the blade. A little bit better because I increased the blade tension, but you can see how as you get near the bottom of the V, the blade snags into the previous cut. That's not too bad. If you look down it that way, it looks fairly parallel this way. The big problem is if your blade's out and you get a cut like that, you often find it fits nicely here, but you turn it over and you've got a huge gap. We'll see. Right, I'll just clean up this face, just touch it on the belt sander, and I'll pop them together, see how they go. Right, now they don't seem to fit that well, but some of that's due to the shape of the billets. But if I hold them up and give them a sharp tap on the floor, they hold themselves together. now and just pick it up and waggle it around. So that sharp tap, but I don't know if you can see the daylight through there, but if I clamp it there and clamp it there, that won't be too bad. With the splice in position, I don't know if you can see that, the alignment isn't perfect. That back tip needs to be pulled across slightly, but also what you can see is if I get the light behind it, I've got a gap there. This is where the fiddling and fettling and care and attention comes in. What it needs is it's tight there, and basically if I take a tiny bit off the points and relieve sort of here, but obviously on the inside of the cut, it'll all just go together a bit snugger, and then I can clamp it there. Also, once it's clamped, I can then make sure, looking along it, I've got good alignment, and let the glue go off with it all clamped up into good alignment. Now if I offer it up loosely without giving it a bump on the floor to push it home, I can see that in fact the place it's gripping is there. We're a bit tight here, and it's probably this bit rather than this bit, where if I open it up I can get a file onto that face there. I can get a rasp onto there, and if you actually look down the cut you can see it is slightly curved. The alternative is to put that side on the belt sander and take it off flat, and you can see there's a bit of a ridge there, so I could do that. Or like a lot of these things, a little bit of A and a little bit of B. So we're getting closer. And if we look in the bottom of this groove, you can see it's not very clean at all. As the saws come down here, it's kicked into that gap, so that's not very clean. We'll clean that up a little bit. A little bit of fiddling and fettling, and then we'll probably have a nice joint. Let's clean that out a bit better. Let's offer it up again. I mean, I'd expect to be assembling it and reassembling it dry, I don't know, maybe half a dozen times, trying to get the best fit, and sometimes leave it, come back to it in the morning and it's not as good as you thought, or you think actually that's perfectly alright. You've got to be your own judge, but don't rush into stuff. Once it's glued, it's a bit late to try and put it right. The other alignment question is, do you want a bit of back set or deflex, or do you want it in line? Now if I lie it on the floor and push down flat, the sapwood doesn't really align very well. If I get it to align nicer on the back there, say like that, then it's actually got a bit of deflex, but it's got that bit of reflex there. So, you know, there's a lot of compromises to make when you're working with an actual stave. I'll probably go, I don't know to be honest, I'll probably go somewhere between the two, but what I expect I'll have to do is patch the back anyway because of this big dip, this misalignment. Right, here I've got it glued up, but I've clamped it against a nice bit of 2x2 to pull it into line, and I've used one of the little wedges that was cut out when I did the splice just to hold that away slightly. You can see we've got a nice amount of squeeze out of the glue, and that's a sort of alignment I've got. We'll see how that looks in the morning once the glue's gone off. It's just a bit of old newspaper around here, around the 2x2 to stop the bow gluing to the 2x2. It's the fun. Get up in the morning with something to look forward to, just like Christmas.